So hello to my athletes. I'm sitting here on this lovely, warm, summery day, and today I am so excited to share the upcoming piece of content with you. Now, this is a three-part series, and the introduction is going to be the same for each of the parts, but really this guide is how you can work on your basketball IQ no matter where you are in the world, from the comfort of your own phone. You can basically have the world's best basketball coach in your pocket. And I know it sounds almost too good to be true, but I guarantee you that it is not. It is the secret that all of the greatest players of all time have utilized to really optimize their success. And that secret is watching film and watching game clips and understanding why watching film is the thing that will 10x your basketball development. I say in the last video that I really firmly believe that watching film and understanding how to watch film regularly can 2 to 5 times your basketball, and I'd probably extend that up to 10 times. It can really speed up your development when you know what you're looking for. And when you get into the habit of watching film, it only needs to take, you could take 5 minutes every now and again to watch a certain type of film, whether it was, watching the skill practice, as we talk about with the mirror neurons. And then some days you might take a 30-minute session to really critically analyze your own film. Other days you might take an hour to watch a whole game and critically analyze the pieces. Any kind of Mac or iPhone and stuff like that has the tools to be able to look through film, clip it up, and create your own highlight reels. And there's so many highlight reels available on YouTube now. There's literally no excuse for any player not to be watching film regularly. And I think the reason that most players don't do it is because they don't believe that it's going to work. I guarantee you it does work. The motor learning and the science behind it shows it. The fundamental concept behind watching film that allows us to improve is this idea of motor learning, particularly something known as a mirror neuron. So mirror neurons are really powerful and allow us to see something happening and then sort of replicate the same areas of the brain that would be being used when we're actually performing that skill. That helps us to become more familiar with a particular skill. And then there's the other component of basketball, and someone like LeBron James has actually been quoted as saying, when I play basketball, I don't actually feel like I'm playing basketball anymore. I'm simply expressing myself. And he's also said, I think the game a whole lot more than I play it. So at the highest level of basketball and at the higher levels of basketball, players aren't necessarily thinking about what they're doing. And when they're out there playing, they're sort of going, when they're actually acting and doing the skills, they're not necessarily thinking about the execution of it. What they're thinking about is the tactical, strategic components that go into the game. They instinctually know where their players are going to be. They know the plays. They don't have to think about the plays. They inherently cut in the right way, and it's because they've watched themselves play thousands and thousands of times. They've watched just about every scenario unfold in basketball, and that really is what basketball IQ is. It's understanding the fundamental patterns that repeat themselves in basketball and becoming more and more familiar with that. A really good analogy would be something like chess, where in chess, chess players simply watch things unfold, and by seeing that happen over and over again, they become better at chess. And in basketball, it's essentially the same thing. Obviously, there's an athletic component involved in it, but the basketball IQ element is so crucial. And watching film in the way that we're going to go through in this article and in these subsequent videos, depending on which part you're watching, will really help you to start to dig deeper into this. So I'm super excited to share it with you. I know it's going to have a massive impact, and I only started doing this a year ago. I wish I had this when I first started out in my basketball career, and I would have avoided so many mistakes and enjoyed playing that much more. I think a really cool thing that I always talk about, just to say one last thing, is that when I was a teenager, I got bored pretty often. You'd be watching The Simpsons and watching random cartoons, but it's like, instead of that, why not spend that time watching basketball, watching film, and actually improving your game and living out your dream? So that is my challenge to you guys. If you're watching this, take a look, take heed of the information, watch your own games, and instead of paying for a Netflix subscription, go for free and get yourself access to YouTube on your mobile or on your computer or whatever, and start watching game film. It will transform your game, I promise you. Alrighty, so I'm really excited to bring this final part of this quite long article, but very beneficial article. if you've seen any of the ultimate guides to basketball that we've came up with before, whether it was the ultimate guide for dribbling or shooting or even just creating the perfect training week, you'll know that I love to go really comprehensive and detailed on the information that I provide, and that is purely because of the amount of information that is available these days. And I didn't want to come in and reinvent the wheel as such. There's so much information available on YouTube and on the internet, and a lot of people are already putting out really good stuff, but I feel like what tends to be missing is the scientific aspect and really, reflecting on the principles of motor learning and what we know about elite human performance to guide our recommendations for basketball. And so, as you may or may not know, we have our entire program, the Elite Athlete Blueprint, which sits within the entire love of the game suite of courses that we have, and this is where this particular article will sit within the Elite Athlete Blueprint, because it's a fairly advanced concept, and it's a concept that any player at any level can really start to run with and work with, and really improve their basketball as a result. And so the way that I contextualized this initially, just for reference, was it was really important for players during lockdown. We've just come out of lockdown in New South Wales, and I'm sitting here after 5 days of finally being out of lockdown and being able to play again. But there was a period of about 5 or 6 months where I wasn't able to play with anyone other than just practicing. And so it became really important to continue to develop my ability to play the game of basketball, and my decision making without actually playing. And so when looking at the research and the motor learning and how people learn things best and how our brain develops, I came up with the theory that watching basketball and watching it more will allow you to improve significantly without actually having to play. And the science really, really does back this up. There's things known as mirror neurons, which shows that when we watch someone else performing something, our brain is as activated as when we would be doing that activity ourselves. So inherently, we create a motor copy of what that person's doing. Motor means movement, so a movement copy of what that person is doing that we're watching. And that causes our brain to reinforce the skill pattern. And over time, that compounds and builds up, particularly once we allow ourselves to recover. And so that's the context of this whole film analysis thing. And so when I went into film analysis, I really looked at the 3 major parts on reflection from an article from the Knees Over Toes guy, and that's why this is here. And he articulated really, really well one of the theories that I'd been applying into my own life and have noticed massive benefits. And it was really, for younger basketball players, the recommendation to watch an even parts mix of full games, favorite players' highlights at 25% speed, and your own footage. Now, if you saw the prior 2 clips, you would have seen me sort of watching some full 3-on-3 games, and I actually like to slow 3-on-3 games down to the 25% speed, because there's a lot going on in 3-on-3, and as I talked about in that video, basketball really is this form of artistry where there's so many things going on at once, and it's really hard to pick up things that you need to see within a game without having things slowed down, because you're watching one player do a lot of things, and you can learn a ton from just watching one of the players, and then you've got another 4 or 5 players, who are on the floor at the same time. So you should be paying attention to each of those players and noticing which player are you most like, and then inserting yourself into their situation. And watching it at slow motion allows you to more effectively judge their decision making. At full speed, it's harder to judge decision making because you're kind of trying to keep up with what's going on. Whereas when you slow it down at 0.25% speed, you can see the players reacting, the subtle things that they're doing, because that is what is the difference between an elite player and a non-elite player. It's their ability to make decisions and do subtle, small things that really trick up the defender, because basketball is a game of reaction and a game of manipulation. And so the best players in the world are those who have amazing body control and know exactly what they're doing and can set up other players. So I don't want to go too far down into that rabbit hole, but if any of these concepts are interesting and you want to see more of them, then by all means, please send me a message as to some of the specific things that I've talked about, where you're like, hey, look, I'd love some content on that. But really here, I want to go through the final part of watching footage, which is watching your own footage. And so I've got 3 clips of my games that I've played in, and watching yourself can be hard at times. I really want to note, a lot of times when you watch yourself, I've spoken to multiple professional players, and I say, like, I just hate watching myself because I just feel like I look like a Gumby. But any professional player who watches himself regularly enough, or just about any, will say the same thing. They typically don't like watching themselves initially, but they get used to watching themselves. I mean, someone like LeBron James or Kobe Bryant probably loved watching themselves in the end, but that was because they spent 10 years plus watching themselves up to a point to know that they were developing and know that they were owning the things that they were really trying to work on. Whereas when you first start watching yourself, chances are you're not going to be at that level. And so you're not going to be happy with where you're at because you're comparing yourself to the best players in the world. We must remember that basketball and athletic development and anything in life really is a game of levels and progression. And progression can take years and years and years. And so if we measure our progress in years and understand, the key tenets that go into skill development, as we talk about in the blueprint quite comprehensively, then you can see how, watching a film at one stage, you could give yourself a score out of 100 at that certain stage. If you look at the scoring system that we have in the blueprint that allows you to give yourself a bit of a 2K rating based on some of the skill components that we work on, then you'll see where, you might have a clip of yourself playing at a certain level, and then as you progress over a couple of years, you might look back and see, wow, look at all the things that I was doing there and how less well I moved, how much better I move now, how much more athletic I am now, how much better my decision making is, the positions that I'm in, all that stuff. There's so many things to be watching and looking out for. And so I'm just going to run through a quick little go of some of the games that I've played in over the last couple of years and note sort of what I was thinking at the time, and really just point out some of the things that are important to watch for when you are watching your own game film. And watching your own game film is so, so crucial, particularly for the decision making aspect, to see where you're making mistakes and where you're doing things that you just don't want to see, and allowing you to sort of course correct and self correct there. Now, I will note that as part of the Sydney Supersonics, the basketball team that I'm a part owner of and an elite player in, really, really, we do want to focus on film, and we are going to be focusing on film for all of our competitions. As we grow bigger and bigger, we'll try to get as much film as possible, if not filming all games. We've been talking with some live streaming companies. There was a Clutch Sports that did one of our events, and so we're going to make sure that we're able to get film together for all of the players that play in our events, because 3-on-3 at the end of the day is an amazing development tool, and it is the best way to get yourself involved in basketball action, and the film really speeds up that development. So we work in film into the way that we develop players and the way that I work as a coach in my online slow coach platform. If you want to check out my platform, the link will be below in the bio of the YouTube video. But really, I love to use film as a way to speed up growth and development. And to put a factor on it, a quote, I would say that if a player diligently watches their own footage and does all of this film study, they can upwards of 2 times their development. I would say it's probably in the vicinity of between 2 to 5 times the amount of results that they're going to get watching their film, just because a lot of players, particularly younger players, and I know this in myself, will make the same mistakes over and over and over again if they're not critically appraising their performance, and so they won't be able to get themselves into positions where they can learn and develop. A really good example is a player who struggles to generate contact going into, say, a layup, for example, to generate contact into their player, the defender, and be able to score. And so if you don't know how to generate that first point of contact, which is a real struggle for a lot of Australian players, then your finishing is never going to be as good as it could be, because you're opening yourself up to be able to get blocked. You're opening yourself up to basically the defender to dictate whatever it is that you're doing. And being able to generate that first point of contact and do contact legally is the thing that allows you to protect the ball, finish strong, and basically negate the defender that is in front of you. And it's something that I don't feel like I do particularly well, and I'm becoming more cognizant of it recently, and that's why I mention it, because really, I wouldn't have realized how bad I was at drawing contact, because it can be really easy just to sort of fade away and not be strong with the ball when you don't watch yourself, because you're not sure where you're making that mistake. You always just fall into the same habits that you've got. And I feel like a lack of ability to draw that contact sort of comes down to a couple of things. It comes down to, firstly, not being aware of it, and secondly, and probably the most critical aspect to it, is the ability to actually handle the ball with one arm while thinking about other things. And that's where the multi-sensory, multi-perception drills come in, such as two-ball dribbling and tennis ball dribbling and offhand work. And I talk about that a bunch in the ball handling video. If you haven't seen that, take a look at the article on Medium, or search on YouTube, The Ultimate Guide to Ball Handling. But really being able to take the contact and dribble into a player is what's going to significantly improve your ability to draw that first point of contact. And that's something that's really hard to assess without actually watching film. And if you watch the greatest players in the world play, the greatest point guards, every single point guard at a high level will do this. But, James Harden is an amazing example of someone who does this, as well as Luka Doncic, two guards that aren't the most athletic players in the NBA, yet two of, if not the best scorers in the NBA. And it's because of their ability to draw that contact and negate the defender around them. So I sort of went over some of Luka Doncic and James Harden's clips in the 25% speed video, but I just wanted to firstly introduce that because it's a really, really important concept for watching film, and it's something that I want to make a note of as to how much it will actually improve your development, because that I mean it without any reservations to say that 2 to 5 times the development can come from watching film. And the only way to know that is to actually go through the process of watching film properly yourself, go through it with a coach, and start to understand and see how it critically improves your game. And I guarantee you it will make a huge difference. So without sort of jumping around too much, let's go into some of the clips of the games that I've got. So forgive me for the blurriness of this clip, but this was a clip in Hamilton where the Sydney Supersonics, we travelled down and we played against a team known as Zamboanga MLV. Now, there was a professional Filipino player and two sort of NBL 1 players, and we travelled down to Hamilton, Victoria, and played in this tournament. And so here we are here. There's me there with the healthy hair on my head. There's Cooper, and there's Jaden, one of our other players, and Darcy. He's a player from Melbourne who has played in some of our events. It's Darcy Harding, not Darcy Emery. And so we're playing here. You can see I'm warming up, getting some shots up, but I noticed a few things about my warm-up and my shot stroke, but I'm not going to critically appraise that at this stage. So once we get started in the game, let's point out a couple of minutes of clips so we can notice some of the things that I want to pay attention to. So I came off there. So I step on the court, come back on the court here. So I'm watching myself executing on these various plays. So here we have a strong set, and I know that I didn't do this as well as I could. Now, one of the things that I struggled with initially in 3-on-3 was switching over from a predominantly post player to more of a guard type position. Now, in this clip, I was a bit heavier than I am now. I'm probably 101, 102 kilos, and was just starting to switch up my training to a more athletic style of training. And now, coming out of lockdown, I've really been training in the way that I feel like is more optimal towards the goals that I'm pursuing in 3-on-3, and I'm a bit more light and a bit more athletic on my feet. And again, that's the whole Sonics 1x20 program that I recommend, that I've been following, that allowed me to get more like that. But in this clip, I am a bit slower, and I noticed that I'm a bit more sort of laboring, more like a post player, not as agile and moving as well on my feet. And so this sort of affects my ability to play as an outside player. And I noticed that switching from a post player to outside, I don't cut super well, and my reads are slightly off. And this is one thing that, is a real letdown for me, to be honest. It really affects your ability to play on a team. So here, as you can see, I sort of try to fake, and I do a face cut, whereas the way Strong's supposed to go is I'm supposed to go off this player here over there and set this screen for this player here. So I'm trying to engage off the ball. Now, as a post player, I'm not always sure how to run off those, and so that is a massive mistake that I sort of made, and you can see the problem it creates. It creates a one-on-one for Darcy here. Jaden has to try and create a shot, and I'm just flaring off into the corner, and so really not an amazing action from me, and I'm not even in position to rebound. It was a good take from Darcy. Unfortunately, didn't make it, but really that was one of the things that I noticed when watching my own game is, wow, I'll make a quick note, allowing myself to watch this actually allows me to sort of cement the plays that we run in my brain a lot more. And so if you're someone who struggles with running plays a lot, watching film is amazing because you can envision yourself and visualize the plays as the way they're supposed to be structured and visualize how they come in a real situation. And that's what basketball IQ is. Basketball IQ is being able to recognize the basketball situations that usually present and then adjusting your actual ability to play the game based on that. And it's really just experience, and it's a function of seeing the same situation happen multiple times. So the next play, I'm coming up and defending this screen. Decent show. So that was pretty good defense there. And does Eric score? Yeah, it wasn't too bad defense there. Probably could have showed a bit more, but don't want to be too critical. So as Darcy's coming out, he takes that shot. We're happy with that. I'm pretty happy with this rebound here. Rebound attempts. He's a big boy there, 6'8". So it's tough to rebound against him, but here I am sort of playing defense, and I'm pretty happy with this defensive possession here. Look at the defensive stance is good. As you can see, I'm trying to get really low, playing that nice stance. Just play straight up, get inside him, take the contact, straight up there. No problems. So quite happy with that defensive stance, and it may have been a foul in a normal game, but because of my ability to, well, because it's round 3, there was no foul called. So here I am. Now here, this is an interesting one. What I probably should have done here was seen that Jay drives. It's a tough one because I'm sort of stealing. I probably should have vacated as soon as I saw he wasn't going to give that pass. I should have vacated out because then he gets a clear block on Jaden. And even though it was a foul, I really should have probably cut out there. So I'm watching, noticing some other stuff. Here we go, have a sub for Coops. We won't draw too much in. So here's the same sort of elbows play. Now what do we go through here? And again, I'm noticing things that my teammates sort of aren't doing too. And it's really useful for us as a team. So I go off. There's a better cut. Run off it the right way. So that's much better. Elbow set. Now here I sort of crowd underneath, and I cannot be doing that. So again, I walk the defender straight into Jay. So that is a massive mistake from me, and just a function of my inexperience playing outside. So I come through. Let's just skip a little bit here. So what I need to do is, if there's no seal, I need to vacate out. I cannot be standing there because this would have been an open shot for Jay because it would have been wide open, but instead I walk his defender in there. And to be fair, Jay could have given us that little pocket pass, but I walk his defender straight into him, and it's just an absolute havoc. Absolute havoc. And they call the foul again, but it's just, I need to be out of there and really clearing more space. That's another decision making thing that I see as a function of a lack of me being able to play in a guard position. What do we got here? Nothing too bad there. And then let's watch what goes on here. So good spacing, nice spacing. That was a turnover. And do I go back on? All right, let's watch one more play here, and then we can look at some more recent clips. So this is the thing. Notice how long I'm taking to go through it all. A lot of times when you're watching a full game, you're just going to pass up these things. So it can be worth watching a full game in full length, but then also watching it like this. So this is a great play for me here. A few things that I do quite well. So I set a really good screen for Coops, and that gets him flaring open. So I've set such a good screen that he wants to cover it. He doesn't really respect me as a shooter, and I'm running out. They have to switch. I'm running out. I see that I'm open, and I just take the shot. So good play to get open for a shooter, and setting a strong screen. You can see how setting a strong screen really has an impact on the play. So setting this screen causes them to be in doubt as to what they're doing, and then open shot comes from it. Now, if that shot wasn't on, that's a pump fake and a drive. He'd have to step up, quick dish, but I take the shot and nail it. Pretty happy with the shooting form there too. And so it gives you an idea of the different things that can go into watching your own footage. So that is how I sort of watch my own clips. And when going through some other clips, this is some training clips. Watch a couple of these in fast motion. I just can notice the effort that I'm sort of playing with and some of the key things to look out for. So watching this here. So that was a good screen, good movement. Yeah, we both moved well. I'm happy with that shot, even though it didn't go in. Quick release, good shot. What we got? We're coming back, dribbling out. They're a little bit slow there. So this is a great one. If you're going to cut, I've got to be able to recognize that. So nice little dish. And then I go to set that screen for him. And if I'm slipping like that, he's giving that. So I got to know he's going to give that straight away. And this is a big thing for 3-on-3 players to know. In 5-on-5, the lane down there is going to be clogged. In 3-on-3, you can cut by. So it's a great play to sort of fake him in with some dribbles, make him relax. And then it's like, go set the screen, bang, slip to the bucket. He's giving that, and I need to cake that. So that was a bit later on after this one. I'm a bit more mobile here. I've been playing a little bit more. And then here's a recent clip from the other day. And it really pays to watch your own training. And I just want to make note that this clip here was simply just a clip that was filmed on a tripod, on a phone, in a casual scrimmage. And the advantage of 3-on-3 is that it's not up and down, so you can just put a tripod in the corner and you capture the whole game. And so it's a really nice thing to be aware of, that when you're playing 3-on-3, you're going to be able to get clips of your own games and start to film your own training. You don't necessarily need to be playing in a comp. Obviously, it helps in a comp because it's refereed and the standard's going to be a lot higher, and that those clips will stay with you for life, particularly with the way that we want to run them, where we'll have everything up on socials. But really, this is a great way to introduce yourself to sort of watching footage and watching clips and understanding how to analyze your own game and performance. And let's just watch a couple more things here. So defensively, look, it's tough. We're pretty cooked at this stage. And going out, nice little flare. I probably needed to do a better job of getting open for these. Take the rebound. It's a pretty quick draw here. So, you're watching your shooting. How's the form looking? Are you happy with how you're moving on your feet? You can see different things like that. And as I'm going in, taking a drive, I'm just sort of watching this one live just to see what else I can pick up in training clips. Knowing here, the effort was down. But it's really worth sort of watching and critically appraising that. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. Just a quick little message from me, Ben Killen, the current number 2 ranked round 3 player in Australia. As you may or may not know, the content that exists within this sort of sits within the ultimate course that I've created, which is the Elite Athlete Blueprint, which is the course that really kind of breaks down the science of becoming an elite athlete. Now, if you're interested in more about that, you can check the link in the bio below, and that will have all the details you need as well as the associated resources. So thank you for tuning in. Hope you really enjoyed this tutorial on how to watch film, and it really helps you to level up your game.